What's going on, players? This is Coach Mason Waters, and this is the first episode of Ask Coach Mace. I'm really excited about this. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a while. If you're a basketball player, this show will hopefully benefit you. I've been fortunate enough to coach at a bunch of different levels, learn from a lot of different coaches from, all the way from the NBA coaches to college coaches, high school coaches, so on and so forth. And I want to share what I know with players to help you grow as a player and as a person. There's going to be questions in the show, so people will send in questions, and then I will answer them to help you get better. If you want to know more about me, just hit the first link in the description below, and that's a little bit about my background. But the first question I will answer on here on episode 1 comes from Mateo, and Mateo asks, can I ask you one thing? As a player, which is the best method to study the pick and roll? Focusing on one player with similar style, position, strengths, or exploring different teams of different generations? Or else? Thanks. Mateo, this is a good question because it shows you have a basketball IQ, or at least you know that you need to be thinking about the game as opposed to just rolling the ball out and going out and playing without thinking. So that's a good question. But let me rephrase the question a little bit because I want the question to help players. So as a player, kind of take that question and just ask, what do I need to be doing to maximize my effectiveness in the pick and roll? So the first thing you need to do, number 1, is to understand what you are good at. The best players, they can drive it, they can pass out of the pick and roll, and they can shoot out of the pick and roll. These are the best players. Most likely, if you're a middle school or high school player, heck, even a majority of college players, your skill set at this point in time, unless you work on it to expand it, you're probably either good at shooting, good at finishing, or good at passing out of the pick and roll. Or you might be good at 2 out of 3 of those. More than likely, you are bad at one of them. So when you're studying the pick and roll or thinking about how you can be a more effective pick and roll player, first thing you need to think about is what you're good at now. Double down on that strength in every single pick and roll situation that you come into. You are looking to go to that strength. If you're a shooter, you are coming off the ball screen looking to shoot. If you're a bad shooter but you're a good passer, you're looking to hit the roll man. Or you're looking to see if the second layer of defense helped over, then you skip to the corner, so on and so forth. If you're a good attacker, you're coming off the ball screen, looking to either attack to the rim, make an inside-out move between the legs, whatever, and finish at the rim and make a play. So that's what your mindset needs to be. Now, if we want to get into the details of how to study pick and rolls, which was the original question, I'll go over a couple things here that we can talk about. So we'll look at a bunch of different types of pick and roll. So the first type of pick and roll that we'll look at is called a high pick and roll. This is number 1. Number 1, high pick and roll. So you're going to have the 5-man or the screener for this matter. I'm just using the 5 as an example, but the screener and then the ball handler. I'll put B for ball handler. Most of the time people may put 1 because the point guard, but any position can be in the ball screen as long as they're good coming off the screen. So a high ball screen is going to be outside the 3-point line, and the angle of the screen is going to be flat. So the screener's shoulders are going to be parallel to the baseline. That is a high or a flat pick and roll, and there's a lot of different names for these kind of screens, but that's the terminology I know, is a high or flat pick and roll. The next pick and roll is a side pick and roll. John Stockton and Karl Malone made this most famous back in the day, and I'm sure you've seen it. A side pick and roll, I'll do S for screener, B for ball handler. Whenever a player is circled, that means they have the ball. So here's the screener, and they are going to set the ball screen on the side of the court. That is a side pick and roll. Now here, what normally happens nowadays is there will be 3 shooters spotted up on the weak side. So we can just say shooter, shooter, shooter. Typically this would be the 2, the 3, and maybe the 4. And it can vary, of course, but that might be your typical situation. Now, the good thing about having the shooters on the weak side is that, and I'm going to use blue for defense, is that you're going to have help defenders on that side, and the screener's defender is most likely going to be here, and the ball handler's defender is most likely going to be there. Now, the problem for the defense on this situation is that there is no help defense right here. So if the ball handler can fake as if they are going to use the screen, but then drive baseline, they will drive to where there is no help. That's a big advantage. That's called rejecting the ball screen, turning it down, refusing the ball screen. A lot of different terminologies for it, but that's refusing it. If they don't do that and they go over the ball screen, let me erase the first dribble real quick. So I'm erasing this, and now if the ball handler goes over the ball screen and the ball handler occupies both defenders, so they dribble this way, let's say the defender went over, let me make this text smaller, and then the screener's defender is also on the ball. Well, now, as the 5 rolls to the baseline, there's still no help here, so 5 rolls towards the baseline, and then the ball handler will make that pass right there. So this is a side pick and roll, and all these concepts can be applied to any type of pick and roll. Let me see. I'll erase all this, and now the next one that we will look at is a step-up pick and roll. I'll have to redraw the court a little bit. But a step-up pick and roll is going to be on the side, just like the side ball screen was, but the only difference is going to be the angle and the timing of the screen. Excuse the court is not exactly to proportion, but we'll make it work. So a step-up screen, I'll use blue for offense again, would be where we'll just use the 5 as the screener, and we'll have the 1 as the ball handler. We'll say we might be spaced out something like this. A step up, instead of the 5 approaching the ball handler from the inside and then facing the sideline, the screener is now going to step up this way, and the screener will be facing the half court line, and then the ball handler is going to drive on the baseline side. That is a step-up pick and roll. If you watch the NBA, a common action they have is a hammer screen on the backside, named after Darvin Ham, who used to play for the Hawks, I believe. He coached for the Hawks as well. Not sure what team he's on now. But this would be a hammer screen on the backside, and this guard could make that pass there, or the guard could keep going towards the rim, and he or she could score the basketball. Okay, so that was a step up. Now the next one is going to be a twist or a pivot ball screen or a turn ball screen. Again, there's all different types of terminologies for this stuff, and I'll just use, I'm just going to use 2 people involved in this play once I get the court fixed. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. Not a perfect court, but we're learning basketball, whatever, it's all good. So a twist screen is when the ball handler will dribble past the screen. So we'll just use 1 and 4 as an example this time. So 1 is going to dribble off the ball screen, off the first ball screen, and then whoever the screener is, they will set the screen, and then they will twist or turn around and set another ball screen like this. So we set the ball screen. Now the screener will now twist and turn around and then set another immediate ball screen for 1, and they will come off. This is good against defenses who, if both defenders shift this way with the ball handler, then the screener just follows the defender and screens them, and then it usually is a wide open drive going that way. So that is a twist. That's a very, very effective way to attack the screen as well, and a very uncommon one. It's an advanced screen, very rarely seen at the middle school, high school, or even college level, but still very effective. The final type of ball screen we'll look at is a drag screen. So this is a transition ball screen that normally looks like this. You would have the 1, I'll just still circle. You would normally have the 1 advancing the ball up the court. So they started in the back court, and you would have 5, or whoever you want to screen the ball, trail 1. So 1 is dribbling up the floor. They're getting right to the 3-point line, and 5 is trailing this way into a ball screen, and then the offense is attacking from there. Typically, what would happen is a shooter would be in this corner, a shooter would be in this corner, and then the 4-man could typically be spaced out on the wing in either one of these areas, or what could also happen is 4, if they're a good shooter, they could start at the block, and once 5 sets the ball screen, they might dive, and then as 5 dives on the roll after setting a ball screen, 4's defender, who is X4 right here, X4 has to help on 5 as 5 rolls to the rim. So now as X4 is helping on 5, 4 can lift to the top of the key, at which point 1 could turn around and make this pass. Sorry, a pass is normally a dotted line. But 1 could make that pass back to 4. So again, a drag screen, typically, there's a lot of different things you can do, but usually, or very commonly, you have a 2 in the corner, 3 in the corner, shooters in the corner, 5 sets the ball screen and dives, 4 starts on the block, 4's defender has to help on the roll man, and while X4 is helping, 4 is gaining separation from X4, going up top to look for a 3. And of course, the easiest thing would just be if 1 comes off and gets all the way to the rim, that would be the first option. If you would, and you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it, and stay tuned for Ask Coach Mace, more episodes.